Hey guys, today is Rig-atoni Day. That's right. These are some World War II rigs that I'm going to show you right after you watch these explosions. I'll be right back. Okay, these are some of the rigs. Again, I called it Rig-atoni Day. I just like that. These are some of the rigs, all German, one Japanese Nambu. These are all two-match mag rigs. Now, it's very, very hard to find these guns with two-match magazines just because they had to practice, they had to qualify, they went to the range, they didn't keep track. There'd be 3 or 4 soldiers shooting rounds, laying down their magazines. So one matching magazine adds quite a bit to the price. 2 matching magazines can actually almost double the price just because it's so rare. And these two are from World War I. The holsters, usually they're brown. This is unusual then it's black. And the World War I holsters do not have the little reinforcement stitching here. That's World War II. See the stitching there? Reinforcement. And in World War I, you don't see that stitching there. So let's take a look at the rigs. Let's start with the Japanese Nambu. Very nice leather holster. It's unusual to see it with the original strap. Usually these crack and break, and this is barely cracking, so it's in really nice condition. The Nambu, usually you would find a spare firing pin because they break pretty easily, not in here. And then a box of ammo fits in here. Again, not in this one, but sometimes you'll see that. You often will see kanji writing right here, maybe just stamped in. It's missing here, probably because it's worn off. And here's the gun itself. Now, the spare magazine, it's a lot easier on a Luger to see the spare magazine. It's sitting right there. But here, you have to look down inside. You can see the place for the cleaning rod right here. Again, it's missing. You can pick those up on eBay or Gunbroker. The cleaning rods are about $100. And then here is the spare magazine. It fits down inside there, and the gun fits in there right next to it. So first, let's take a look at the condition of this Nambu. Absolutely beautiful. Hardly any wear. I'm going to say 98%. Of course, there's scratches right here because this is for the safety and fire. This is the large trigger guard, and that was for the winter gloves. And the grips are going to be numbered to the gun. Let's see when this gun was made. We take the date right here, which is 19.2, so that's February of 1944. So it's late war, but again, the finish is still a nice quality finish. And then the last 3 digits of the serial number, 752, will be on both magazines. That's what makes it a rig, a 2-match magazine rig. Actually, the rig is the magazine, the cleaning rod, and the holster. So this is technically not the full rig. It's missing the cleaning rod. Now there's the 2 matching magazines. This is the first magazine. The magazine with the dot above it is the spare. And you can see they're usually pretty crudely stamped, but highly unusual to find it with 2 matching magazines. These, by the way, are 8 millimeter. The caliber is 8 millimeter. And that is our Nambu rig. All right, next we have this World War II holster. You can see the maker right here is DTA. You can look that up on the internet, P08, a Luger, from 1941. So they usually date them and Waffen stamp them to show that they were issued to the military. Typically from 1940 on, they're all black, and even the ones that were brown were often dyed black. You can see this must have been dyed black because you open it up and you can see it's brown inside. Oh, this has a tool. The tool is marked 655, which will match the proof on the gun. Now this gun is going to be a Black Widow. Because we call it, well, collectors often call it a Black Widow. It's really nothing special other than instead of the typical wooden grip, they use this black Bakelite grip. This is in fantastic condition. Just like the Nambu, it has about a 98% finish. You can see here BYF, which is the code for the Mauser factory, 1941. The difference between this and the Nambu is this has a little more shine to the finish. There you go. Maybe the camera doesn't pick up the nuance, but this is actually pretty nice. And this has a little bit more shine on it. And as I said, it may not pick up. Well, that you can see it very clearly. This is kind of a dull finish. This is a nice shiny finish, the front strap and the back strap. Now, to be a complete rig, this should have, I said it had 2 matching magazines. Technically, it doesn't have 2 matching magazines. It has 1 matching magazine, which is kind of unusual to have a Black Widow with a matching magazine, but early on, they did still number the magazines, but then they went to the Black Widow magazine, which is Bakelite. So we have 1 matching magazine and 1 Black Widow Bakelite magazine. So it's kind of a cool combination, and I thought I'd show that to you for Rig-atoni Day. We all have Rig-atoni for lunch. Okay, next I have 2, not 1, but 2 World War I rigs, and these do have 2 matching magazines, and they are the wood bottom magazine. Because from World War I, you would have a wood bottom instead of the aluminum or Bakelite bottom. This does not have a tool, so again, it's not a full rig, but we do see a maker. So remember World War II, there was on the back, it would be the maker, the Waffen stamp, the date on the back. These are often, in World War I, you'll see that here, or sometimes you'll see it here, and then sometimes you'll see it here. On this one, obviously, there's the maker, and there's 1917. So over 100 years old, this rig has stayed together. It's very, very cool. This is the typical brown that you see in World War I. It's a very nice holster, by the way. The leather is cracking a little bit, but overall in very good condition. DWM was the factory where they were made in World War I and between the wars. This is 1918. Remember, the holster was 1917. Collectors usually say as long as it's within 1 year, in other words, the gun was issued, they had surplus holsters from the year before, so that's not a big deal. Anytime the date is the same or within 1 year, we consider that they probably came back from the war together. Now, interestingly, we didn't have a lot of bringbacks in World War I, but we did have a lot of World War I bringbacks from World War II because we occupied Germany, unlike the First World War. We occupied Germany, and the first thing we did is get on a loudspeaker and say, turn in all your weapons. So families, veterans, people who had Lugers in the house from World War I, turned them all in, and the GIs brought them home as souvenirs. World War I, you'll see the stamps here. Let's go back to World War II, because I forgot to show you here, you see the Nazi era stamps. That's a Nazi Eagle 655, and these are imperial stamps, and they have different letters, crown over different letters, S, D, other letters. In fact, they called the earlier ones are bug proofs because they have crown B, U, and G. But those are the imperial proofs. These are the Nazi era proofs. So they're kind of consistent on how they made the Lugers and did the stampings. You can see here in 1941, the small parts are blued. You see here and here. On these, it's a straw color. And we know about that. They took the time to do the straw color because it just makes it pop a little bit more. You see straw color and straw color, where World War II, it's all blued. It saved time and money to do it that way, so that's why they made that manufacturing change. This has the wooden grips, of course. Everything else is the same, 9mm Luger. The takedown is pretty simple. There's separate videos you can watch on the takedown. Notice the front strap is in great condition. These are just phenomenal guns, and then the money shot is the 2 matching magazines. And there you go. There's the gun with the 2 matching magazines. There's no hint of grinding it down. Obviously, some people will grind down the mismatch number and restamp them. There's plenty of people who do that kind of thing. But in this case, I see no signs of it being ground. I believe these are 2 original matching magazines. Let's look at one more. Remember, this was 1918. This is the second World War I Luger. I mentioned they were usually brown, and this was probably dyed black, but now I can say it's not probably dyed. It definitely is dyed black because you open it up. You can see it's brown inside. And then later, maybe for World War II, I'm not sure why, but later they dyed it black. Maybe it was a unit, and this did happen. The German units would pick logos, and just like the Americans, they would do art on the side of their tank or their plane. Some units would say, hey, let's all be, actually the death's head units. They would put a death's head on their gun or their holster. put pins on them, and then the whole unit would dye them black so they'd look bad. So this could have been done after the war. It could have been done by a particular unit. I can't say for sure. But here's the date. Remember before we looked inside, I believe it was 1917. This one, Maker Mark, and 1915. Once again, there's no tool. Actually, imperial tools are hard to find. A lot of times these will just have blank tools in them because over 100 years old, people lose the tool, they set them down and walk away. I lose my keys every day, so I can see losing the Luger tool as well. This is DWM, just like the last one, and this one is a little earlier, 1915, and if you remember, the holster was dated 1915, so matching. 9mm Luger. Here is the Imperial Proofs. Here is the straw-colored small parts that we've already talked about. Another beautiful gun. This one has a unit mark. I can look this up and get more information about this regiment. The MG I know is machine gun, but I'm not sure with the Z and the F, and then it will have gun number in this particular regiment. So you can look that up, and there are people who do that as part of their hobby. They collect units, different unit markings. But you also see a little bit of freckling in there. Pin pricking is what we call it. See it right in here. That's just over time it starts to corrode. And if you don't wipe it down with oil on a regular basis, they do start to corrode. And you do see corroding here, which is pretty common, and corroding here. That's the first place to corrode because if you go out and shoot and you have gunpowder on your hand, or it's hot and humid like it is in Philadelphia in July, your hands are sweaty, so you're leaving salt deposits. The other thing is you eat potato chips just before you handle your Luger. A really bad idea. Don't do that. But here's the Luger. Now let's get the money shot and look for the two matching magazines. All right, there it is, 3948. And on this magazine, you see the plus sign, which is indication of the extra mag. Remember the Japanese one, it was just a dot, much more efficient. This one, they would put the plus sign right here on the magazine to indicate it was the spare. Okay, I have a few more to show you, but I just have to show you this little bitty baby. You know, whenever you see a picture of a baby, you have to say, oh, isn't that cute? This is adorable. So that's an Aka logo from the Aka factory. It's a very thin layer of leather. It's like the only thing between you and I is a thin layer of gabardine. This is actually not gabardine, but leather, Aka marked, and it actually says Aka. You can barely see it. So this holster is actually quite valuable. It's a very rare holster. And you can also see an ink stamp where this says Walther. It has to say Walther, and then it would be a Model 9. But you can't really see it anymore. And then there's a stamp here in an oval, which I can't read. But somebody out there could probably research it and find out who this was issued to. But they did use these Walther Model 8s and Walther Model 9s as backup pieces so that an officer might carry something on his waist belt, but also have this in a little vest pocket inside his jacket. Now, I'm not saying that that's who carried this, a German officer, but it does seem that it was issued to somebody, maybe in the private sector, or somebody who just wanted a backup piece because of that. And then, as I said, it does say Walther on it and has the Aka marking. So a valuable holster for those people who collect these. And then here's the gun itself, Walther Model 9. It comes in .25 caliber. And this has the etched slide. It's not really engraved. It's etched on there, acid etched. These are kind of rare. This is a correct Walther magazine. And with gloves, they're really hard to handle and fire because they're tiny little things. But when it's loaded, that signal indicator pin says it's loaded, and it does fire. And it's pretty easy to take apart. There's information out there about that. You see the front strap, back strap, and this is Crown N proofed, so it was pre-1940, and as I said, it was probably issued to somebody who used it as a backup piece. Cute little gun. It's not really a rig other than it comes with a holster, but there is no spare magazine on this holster. Now let's take a look at a P38. Here we have, this is a soft shell style holster. It's a lot cheaper than the earlier ones. Look like a, well, here's an earlier P38 holster. It looks more like the Luger holster, but then to save time and money, they started using these pretty extensively from 1943 and onward. This one is pretty rare because it's dated 1945. Now, they had plenty of holsters left over in 44, so they really cut back on production, plus they were running out of leather, and that's evidenced by they started using paper to make holsters and different products such as vinyl, but the leather holsters were becoming more scarce, so it is very unusual to find a 1945 holster, and this holster itself commands a premium. Now, we open it up and we see the gun inside, and by the way, it does have a spare magazine, which would not be numbered, so we can't say it's matching. It's just a correct holster, late war. There's really not any markings on it. So this was probably never issued. This was probably in the factory at the end of the war, never issued. GI picked it up along with the holster, dated 1945. And then the gun itself is AC-45, made by Walther. And you also see it's kind of a dual tone in that this is phosphate, phosphate, blued, phosphate, phosphate, cog hammer, which is a late style of hammer. Those of you who collect these know exactly what I'm talking about. There's phosphate, blued. Again, we're checking to see if this was issued, and this is Waffen stamped down at the bottom, which is unusual. So I can't figure this out. Maybe it was stamped, yeah, JVD. So this was originally went to spree work, but put together along with this magazine, which is blank, along with this to make a full rig. Now this gun we actually know pretty much exactly when it was made because it's in the B block, which is March of 1945. So this was made in March of 45, and remember, they came in, the GIs came in April, so this is the next to the last letter code. The last one would be C. So usually when you see a AC-45 in the C block, it's going to be mismatched because it was put together from parts in the factory. In the C block would be April, and the GIs had come in by April, so they were putting these guns together, and many of them were mismatched. This one, however, was made in March, a month before they came in. So one of the last ones made by the Polish workers for the German army. And it was Waffen stamped, except the final proof, there's 3 proofs here. Just like we saw on the Lugers, the 3 proofs, there's only 2, which means the part was inspected, the assembly was inspected, but it never got its final proof because it's missing the 3rd one. So it's still in the factory when the GIs came in, and I'm convinced they grabbed up enough to make this into a rig. It's got a mirror bore. It's got this correct grips. Also in the B block, one other characteristic is they often have barrels that were made in the Czech factory. FHN is the same company that made the CZ27. And the proof mark on the CZ27 is an Eagle 76. And right here you see Eagle 76. This barrel is a Czech barrel sent to the Walther factory, put together by Polish workers. It was inspected, ready to go, but by the time the GIs came in, it never made it out the door. This was picked up by a GI, I'm fairly confident, and brought back at the end of the war as a souvenir. It is all matching, but the barrel, again, was made in the Czech factory. You do see somewhere here almost fingerprints where somebody held it like that. You can see the different shades of the bluing, but again, phosphate parts along with blued parts. Okay, speaking of guns that were put together in the factory, Walther not only had P38 parts in the factory, but this is a Walther PP. From the factory, I mentioned that they were running out of certain materials. They were also running out of the plastic grips. So 1945, this gun is from 1945. Notice there's no logo. Here's a picture of the logo on a Walther that you typically would see. But in 1945, they were just banging them out. So they didn't care about the logo. They did mark them AC, which is the factory code. You see the same AC on the P38 over there, but there's no proof marks at all here or here. Also, this is mismatched. You can see the last 3 digits are 325P, And over here, the last 3 digits are 577P. So this is mismatched, but again, probably put together from parts in the factory at the end of the war, mint condition, never inspected. Could have been the Polish workers. I know there were stories that the GIs would pay them with food or other items of trade in order to put these together. But then other GIs say we put them together ourselves. The stories vary, but there were different groups that came through the factory on the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, and all the way through most of April. There were GIs in and out. And each time they went in, some units were allowed to pick up 2 souvenirs and take them with them. Some officers allowed that, some officers did not. So it really varied. Here you do see phosphated parts. This is phosphate, I believe this is phosphate. So it's just like the P-38, at the end of the war, they were using phosphated parts. One thing in particular was the magazine. You can see the bottom is blued, the magazine is phosphated, and they're usually, in 1945, will be a W. And this W mag stands for, W is for soft. So the metal is still soft, and that's to warn you that the lips on these sometimes get bent because it was never hardened. In 1945, they were trying to rush them out, and so they didn't bother to harden it, and therefore it was stamped W. Here is the holster that came with it. Remember the Akka holster on the little bitty baby? There's the same Akka marking. This is an Akka holster in great condition. Here's the spare magazine making a full rig. Again, phosphate, blued, W marked. So this was in the factory in April of 1945 and brought back by a veteran. There is a hole here. I have no idea why that's there, but I'm sure it serves some useful purpose. Here's my final rig, and I could talk a lot about this because these, I think, are really cool guns. The Fubar. Now, this holster is so pristine, it's barely been bent. You'll notice it doesn't stay over very well. This is in brand new, like unissued condition. Here you see that's a Luftwaffe stamp. All of the Fubar's, there were 30,000 ordered in 41 for the Luftwaffe, and then another 30,000 were ordered in 43 for the Luftwaffe. So all of these Fubar's went to the Luftwaffe, and this holster was made in 42. There's a Luftwaffe stamp. It's got the dropping style holster, which is distinct for the Luftwaffe. Here is the Fubar itself. Beautiful gun. This one is dated 41, so it's the first contract. It has a very nice finish. I love the way these things work. The beautiful front strap. It's easy to get the magazine because it's got the little pinky extension. Just a beautiful gun. Now these magazines are numbered. The second one is not matching. Here's the spare. Again, beautiful holster. In fact, it's so new, you can still see a lot of people who have these, they know about this is an aluminum stud, but you can see it was painted. And you almost never, I've seen them where they're completely painted, unissued condition, but most of them you won't see that paint on there. You can already see it's coming off, but you can tell that this was originally, that stud was painted to match the leather. Now, going back to the gun itself. This one is a Model 37, which is what the Fubar is. Model pistol 37M, the Model 37. The Fubar is considered a Model 37. This must have been a replacement mag because it's not numbered here. When they are numbered, they're numbered, and I usually just say it's right in the crotch of that finger extension. Might not be the best terminology, but kind of describes it. You can see it ends in 21. There's the magazine. Again, this is 7.65 or 32 caliber. It says so right here. And you'll also see the serial number here ends in 21. It's actually 921. It's numbered here, here, and then the barrel is also numbered and will match. It's numbered right here. One thing I like about it, basically the design is very much like the 1911. The look is just like a baby 1911. It does have the hold open, slide release, real simple. Ready to fire. But the takedown, I know this is anathema. I hesitate to say it, but it is a lot simpler than the 1911. The design is just really simple. You have to love it. So, you know, with the 1911, they have this lever, and you have to line up the holes, and then everybody has that idiot scratch right here. Anytime you look at a wartime 1911, there's the idiot scratch. And that's just from putting that little lever in and out wrong. Okay, so this is how easy it is. And again, please forgive me, don't write me hate mail, but all I have to do is pull this back and put it in the first notch. There it is, in the first notch. Don't have to, and then I just twist the barrel. How about that, guys? Just barrel back in, twist it, ready to go. That's how easy it is to take the barrel out. Forgive me, but the 1911 taking out the barrel is more complicated. I'm sure it's so much better, but I just think that the Femeru is a really cool gun. They really shoot nicely. Love this gun, love this design, and the fact that they all went to the Luftwaffe, many of them went to pilots, all of them probably went to officers. It's a gun with a lot of history, and here we have a full rig that you can pick up if you go to our website, legacycollectibles.com. Hey, I hope you enjoyed Rig-atoni Day. I want to remind you, I'm going to try to get some videos out the next week or two. Bruce and I are going to pop out as many as we can, because on the 14th of October, I'm leaving with several of you who are going to Normandy with me to visit the battlefields of Normandy, along with Captain Joe Sacchetti. And if you weren't able to make this one, stay tuned. We'll be announcing other ones, but I will try to send in some video from Normandy and Pointe du Hoc and the Channel Islands and different places we're going to be visiting in France. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel to see a lot more.